Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest gaming news with your host, V-Gaming Junkie. The Dross was gated off for not having a phone, so there's nothing but pure gaming-related meatiness. It is all about that electronic good stuff as we dive deep into all that's new in the various interactive virtual worlds. So if you want to play Overwatch 2, no problem, you just need a phone number. That's right, you'll need to link a phone number to a Battle.net account if you want to play their game. As if you needed any other reason to make you avoid Blizzard like the plague. It's kind of funny given one infamous line in the Diablo Immortal reveal was, "Do you guys not have phones?" I guess Blizzard will now be asking the same question of people who want to play Overwatch 2. Just when you thought Valve not allowing free-to-play users from accessing the chat on Team Fortress 2 was unreasonable, you straight up can't even play Overwatch 2 without something extra. Even the friend codes on the Nintendo DS weren't this backwards and needlessly complicated. The cherry on top is that Blizzard won't even accept prepaid or VoIP numbers because apparently you're a bad person if you want to save money or something. On the subject of Team Fortress 2 though, I think I'll just stick to that if I want to continue a class-based multiplayer FPS. Their cast of characters are far more interesting anyway, perfect example being Medic vs Mercy. Let me know in the comments below if you have any intentions of playing Overwatch 2. Maybe this requirement won't be a deterrent to you like it is for me. In other news, God of War's support studio for PC is apparently turning the IP into a live service game. Because of course they are. We don't have enough of those apparently. To quote SpongeBob, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Actually, scratch that. It's a pretty lucrative business, so maybe what they're hearing is stay the course. As long as people buy in, they'll continue to think it's a good idea, you know, supply and demand and all that. Well, if nothing else, Games Radar is convinced there are hints that Ragnarok could come to PC. The support studio in question has said it will continue to work with Sony on the God of War franchise. It would be interesting if, in addition to Ragnarok, older God of War games made it to PC. I'm not too excited about yet another franchise going the live service route, but it seems inevitable these days. All we can hope for is that they won't be overly intrusive. If you think shoving them in too aggressively in the customer's face is a good idea, ask Star Wars Battlefront 2 how well that worked out for them. The 2017 one, obviously, not the far more beloved one. I actually own the 2017 version thanks to epic freebies that you'll learn about in the release date section of this video, just never got around to playing it. Maybe the microtransactions and loot boxes were eased up enough to make it fun, but I'm not in a rush to play it. So Nintendo has gone to the dark side of the video game industry. What I mean by that is they're now requiring third parties to censor their content to get on their system. Before it was essentially just to not be AO rated, and Nintendo was seemingly the only one that loose about it. Granted, what they're censoring doesn't seem like a big deal. They're basically forcing an Elves game to not have topless anime women in it. I know, I'm not going to say it's the kind of game I'd ever want to play personally. However, it does mean Nintendo has gotten their first taste of telling third parties what content they're allowed. I want to believe this won't lead to a slippery slope, but we got to the point where Doki Doki Literature Club on PlayStation forced Blood to be censored black. Nintendo's headquarters may not be in a peculiar spot like Sony's are, but it's certainly them taking a step. Hopefully it won't really lead anywhere, and Nintendo will continue to allow the vast majority of things in their storefront. If not, there's always glorious PC gaming. Even if Steam forces censors too, there's always mods and patches to circumvent this. Sadly, game consoles means you have to play by their rules and they will fight tooth and nail to keep unauthorized code from being enabled. Heck, if you're Sony or Apple with their phones, you may even try to sue someone over it. They may have lost, but even so. Just keep in mind to anyone who would actually applaud censorship that sensibilities change all the time. Something you don't have a problem with can and will offend someone down the road, if it isn't already offending people right now. Censorship is a very double-edged sword, so don't think you're ever immune to it. Food for thought. Bayonetta 3 does it the right way if you ask me. It makes the raunchy stuff a toggled option. Power to the people and all that good stuff. Moving on, there's still some fallout in the wake of Google Stadia's shutdown. It seems far too many game developers were blindsided by the news, especially indie developers. Tangle Tower in particular was going to launch on Google Stadia the 1st of October. The co-owner of SFB Games, Tom, claims he didn't even know about Stadia shutting down until he read an article about it. In a similar fashion, Brandon of Hyper Gunsport was hoping a Stadia release would recoup the cost of development. They were going to launch in November, and this has put them in a bind. This has likewise affected larger companies, with Destiny 2 devs apparently having just learned about it too. Ubisoft, to their credit, seems to be offering a way to transfer purchases to PC. This is basically for those who have a PC powerful enough to actually play their games and want to retain their purchases, of course, but it's still thoughtful. Don't you just love it when these companies communicate with the people relying on it about drastic changes like this? I'm not going to bite the hand that feeds me, of course, but you can take a guess what I'm referring to here. In any case, I hope things work out for these indie devs. Maybe a PC release or a console release if they're lucky if their games can still help them along if they're good enough for people to want to buy in. As always, I report on the release dates from Games Radar every week if you want to learn more about upcoming releases, both AAA and indie. On the subject of things that could have been, former members of Criterion revealed that there was going to be a sequel to the first-person shooter for PS2 and Xbox known as Black. Perhaps Black's biggest claim to fame was looking fairly impressive for the standards of that generation of hardware. It was going to have network co-op, and according to Ben Minto, it may have had the title Black 2 Rendition. It was going to be about American troops kidnapping people from overseas and bringing them back across borders. From the sounds of things, it was going to be somewhat ambitious. Michael Othen described it as intuitive and organic, cool enemy AI behavior that could jump over cars and slide into cover, very dynamic. They even made a Korean missile level with the objective to stop a rocket. I've seen some footage of it on YouTube, apparently it was meant for Xbox 360, so I imagine it also would have gone on PS3. The environment shown in the footage isn't textured, but it's very much modeled. Judging by some industrial shapes, this was the Korean missile silo level in question. If you want to see all of it, you can find it in the description below right under the news story link. Due to other FPSs at the time, including Bad Company by EA, that's why it seems to have been done away with. Why they couldn't have just delayed it a little and maybe even used the extra time to give it even more polish remains to be seen. I only played a bit of the original Black myself, and it was through emulation, so it wasn't exactly the most optimal way to play. Still, it was pretty solid for a shooter on the PS2. It really is a shame that it wasn't given a fair chance, but that's how it is sometimes. On to something a bit more lighthearted, Nintendo revealed the first trailer for their upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie. It has a very Pixar/DreamWorks style, where the materials are more realistic, but it maintains a stylistically cartoony aesthetic. It actually starts out pretty strong too, with Bowser and his army invading an ice penguin kingdom. To say it was one-sided would be a little bit of an understatement. Bowser gets his hands on one of those oh-so-powerful power stars before it cuts to Mario. Bowser also has a talking voice, and I think it's pretty good. It has a growling, intimidating voice, but at the same time, I could see it being used for comedy. I'll say this, it definitely beats the voice Nintendo gave him as Super Mario Sunshine. Mario is definitely a lot lower in pitch compared to the video games. Obviously, Chris Pratt wasn't going to give him the same inflection as Charles Martinet. It doesn't so much sound like Mario, but it's fine for what it is. At least the Toad's voice isn't anywhere near as ear-grating as I imagine it could have been, so that's a plus. The CGI also looks fairly good. Like I said, the materials are realistic, but it's stylistic enough to avoid looking like the Lion King remake. It even teases Luigi at the end, which is always nice. The more the merrier, I say. Although voice credits confirm Donkey Kong and Cranky Kong will also be making an appearance. That kind of makes sense, given Cranky is canonically the Kong that Mario originally fought all those years ago. It'll be interesting to see if they join forces with Mario to stop Bowser or not. Either way, hopefully it'll be good. Nintendo tends to not skimp on the quality of their new stuff, so I have to imagine it'll at least be pretty good. If it can match the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, that would be super. Sonic. So, what if I told you that someone did a fan remake of Pokemon Yellow into 3D? What if I told you that someone wasn't Cody Can't Eat This and it also wasn't Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu? Cody Can't Eat This did his own remake of Pokemon Blue and Red, of course, but Pokebro decided to do something with Yellow. Unlike Cody's remakes, Pokebro's remake seems to upscale the graphical quality somewhat. Albeit still in a very blocky voxel-like design and with a depth of field similar to the Switch remake of Link's Awakening. He also took some inspiration from Scarlet and Violet so Pikachu will wander a bit and attack wild Pokemon on its own, and Pokemon Arceus for real-time Pokeball throwing. In that sense, it's a bit of a modernization of the original Pokemon Yellow, in addition to obviously having overworld Pokemon models akin to Let's Go Pikachu. Honestly, I think it looks a lot more charming than Sword or Shield or Legends Arceus. Just so I'm not completely beating up on Game Freak, however, I will also admit that Scarlet and Violet look to be a step in the right direction. It's a real shame, though, that Pokebro's work will never be allowed to release in any official capacity because of how protective Nintendo is against fan games of any kind. Maybe Pokebro can work it into an original game. It would be a shame to see such efforts go to waste. That's all I'm saying, Pokebro. You've got something good going on here. It'd be really cool to see an original game be produced by it. Seeing Pokemon Yellow made in it would certainly be a great way to promote it as following in the spirit of Pokemon while being legally different. And as always, straight out of the oven of Games Radar, it's time for the latest batch of release dates. Starting out with the 11th has No More Heroes 3 for PC and PGA Tour 2K23 Deluxe Edition for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. The 12th begins with LEGO Brick Tales for the Old Band of 4, PC Building Simulator 2 for PC, and Time Melters for PC. It wraps up with War Pips for PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, but the 13th has a ton of games, so get prepared. It starts with The Case of the Golden Idol for PC, The Darkest Tales for PC, Xbox, and Switch, and The Eternal Cylinder for PS5 and Series X. It continues with Field Up for PC, PS4, and Xbox, Goal the Club Manager for PC, and The Lost Idollands for PC. It continues with PlayStation Stars Loyalty Program in Europe, Sunday Gold for PC, and Triangle Strategy for PC. It finally concludes with Trifox for Switch and Winter Games 2023 for the 6 major platforms. The 14th begins with Dragon Ball Breakers for the Old Band of 4, No More Heroes 3 for PlayStation and Xbox, and PGA Tour 2K23 Standard Edition for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Finally, it rounds out with Scorn for PC and Series X, Taiko no Tatsujin Rhythm Festival for Switch, and Trifox for PC and Xbox. This week's epic freebie until next Thursday is not 1, not 3, but a 2-for-1 special. The first one is Rising Hell, a roguelike platformer. Numero dos is Slain Back from Hell, a heavy metal-themed arcade combat with puzzles. That's right, 2 hellish games coming right at you. Fits well with this news theme, don't you think? It's only too bad Doom isn't among them, but they did include Doom 64 as a freebie before, and maybe there's next time. And that concludes the news broadcast as always. I hope you found it entertaining and informative. If you good people want more content, I Let's Play every single day at high noon, live stream Mondays and Thursdays unless otherwise specified at 4:30 p.m., and I do news videos like this one every Friday at 6 p.m. All in Eastern Standard Time, of course. If you're a real junkie for all things gaming like I am, then feel free to hit that subscribe and bell icon to get your next fix. A like and a comment are always appreciated for that engagement, but I just hope you genuinely enjoyed yourself, and that is it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. Spread this video around like Google's long history of failed projects, and I will see you next time. Capitalize on life, peace out, have a good one, and I'll see you next time.